Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to be unpacking something that's literally hidden in plain sight. We're mapping out the shadow pipeline, this incredibly complex, highly secretive migration route, stretching all the way from the bustling streets of Nepal straight to the borders of France, and often well beyond that. It's a journey completely fueled by deception, absolutely massive financial stakes, and, as you'll see, the very calculated exploitation of international legal loopholes.
Now, think about the contrast here. On one side, you've got the classic romantic promise of Paris, the Eiffel Tower, the dream, right? That's what is being sold to these travelers. But the actual reality? It's intense. We're talking rigorous, tense border control queues. This stark difference between the dream they buy and the intense scrutiny waiting for them when they land, well, that's the central friction point of this entire pipeline.
So, here is our flight path for today. First, deception in Nepal. Second, the French border clash. Third, the asylum loophole. Fourth, gateway to England. And finally, securing the system. Let's jump right in.
Section 1, Deception in Nepal. This is where the whole illicit journey first takes shape, right on the ground in Kathmandu.
Okay, I want to anchor our narrative right away with a number, $28,000. Let that sink in. That's roughly 17 lakh rupees. We aren't just talking about the price of a plane ticket here. This is a massive, life-altering investment. It's exactly what underground brokers in Nepal are charging per person to facilitate this trip. So you have to ask yourself, what exactly are they buying for that kind of money?
Well, the economics of illegal entry are highly transactional. The agent in Nepal is basically a coach. They guarantee entry into Europe and prep their clients on exactly how to dodge border questions. And in exchange for that exorbitant fee, the traveler gets the deliverable. We're talking a complete package of forged background documents and a fraudulently obtained French visitor visa.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. That visa is just a facade. Sure, it offers this promise of exploring France or conducting business, but French border authorities are very clear on this rule. A valid visa absolutely does not guarantee entry. Admissibility is decided case by case right at the exact port of entry, and that is where this pipeline hits a huge roadblock.
Section 2, the French border clash. Let's see what actually happens the moment the traveler touches down in Paris.
This is where the whole underground network hits a brick wall. Travelers show up with this fraudulent arsenal, fake educational certificates, falsified return flight itineraries, totally invented reasons for visiting, but the French officers are ready for it. They're using advanced UV detection, real-time intelligence, and they are specifically trained to break down these inconsistencies through investigative interviewing, especially when a traveler literally can't explain their own itinerary. So when those fake documents are definitively spotted, the traveler faces this crazy split-second ultimatum. Option A is the rejection. That means immediate deportation, a forced return to Nepal, and kissing that 28 grand goodbye. Or they can attempt option B, a desperate, drastic legal maneuver known in the pipeline as the asylum loophole.
Section 3, the asylum loophole. This is the critical complication of our explainer, how international law gets exploited to avoid being sent home. It's actually wild how simple the pivot is. By just speaking a few words and claiming a fear of persecution back in their home country, the traveler completely flips the legal playing field upside down. That single claim instantly triggers mandatory international refugee protections. It legally halts their deportation on the spot and actually grants them legal entry into France while their claim is being processed.
Let's break down this manufactured bureaucratic crisis step by step. Step 1 is the pivot. Caught with fake documents, the traveler immediately shifts to a fabricated refugee claim to avoid total financial ruin. Step 2 creates the bottleneck. Because international law dictates it, every single one of these cases has to be referred to immigration boards, consuming massive administrative bandwidth. Which leads directly to Step 3, the strain.
The real-world strain on the ground is immense. Waiting rooms just fill up with individuals stuck in administrative limbo. This sudden influx of artificially manufactured claims fundamentally overwhelms a system that was specifically built to protect genuine refugees, people who are fleeing actual, documented persecution.
And you know, this deception carries a really heavy systemic price. For the individual, criminal charges, long-term entry bans, and permanent red flags in international databases. But the dominoes keep falling. Airlines face massive financial fines for transporting imposters, and these cases of visa fraud trigger complete systemic reviews back at the visa-issuing authorities.
Section 4, Gateway to England. Now we map out the final, hidden leg of the route, because for many, France is actually utilized merely as a transit hub, not the final destination.
Get this. After using that asylum loophole to legally enter France, these claimants are given 45 days to meet with an assigned lawyer to process their refugee status. But here's the twist. A lot of them have zero intention of staying in Paris. Instead, they frequently vanish within 2 to 3 days. They pivot toward the coast, heading straight for the English Channel, using France purely as a geographical stepping stone.
This spawns a thriving, incredibly dangerous secondary transit economy. Think about it. They've already paid nearly $30,000 just to reach Europe. Now they have to hand over an additional $1,300 to $3,000 to local smugglers for highly illicit, life-threatening crossings over the Channel into England.
So, putting it all together, here is the full anatomy of this loophole, from start to finish. It kicks off with that $28,000 setup in Nepal, then the flight, acting as a facade with a tourist visa. Next up is the interception and aggressive interrogation at the French border. Staring down deportation, the traveler pivots to asylum to secure legal entry. And finally, the transit phase, where they abandon the claim entirely to cross illegally into England.
Section 5. Securing the system. Let's wrap up by looking at the immense systemic challenge this shadow pipeline creates for global border security.
It creates the ultimate architectural dilemma for authorities today. It's like a giant puzzle. How do you systematically close the loopholes that empower these fraudulent agents in Nepal and shut down the illicit transit routes to England without inadvertently punishing the very people who genuinely rely on the system to survive?
And that brings us to our final thought. How do we close the doors on fraud without shutting out the legitimate refugees who need sanctuary the most? It is a delicate, high-stakes balancing act between enforcing strict border security and maintaining vital humanitarian protections. Thank you for joining me on this explainer to unpack the shadow pipeline. And I encourage you to keep questioning how these invisible global systems really operate. Catch you next time.